Hi, everyone. This is Andre McCarter. I'm coming back at you. Touch in a conversation with Andre McCarter. We're bringing some amazing guests in, and the one I got today, this is big time, folks. Okay, we're talking about if they paid a nickel for everything he provides, every time a ball got dribbled from his invention and the things that he created, a billionaire wouldn't even work. It'd be more than that because we all use what this gentleman has used for basketball, has created something that is a phenomenon when he created it and is a phenomenon today. And people do it and don't even know where it came from. But we got the originator here of two-ball dribbling, two-ball system. And this great person I'm going to introduce you to is not only an inventor of a great product, but he's also was a great basketball player. My mentor coming up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he's played at every level of basketball, internationally. He's done it all. So his wisdom about the game, he's seen things that maybe some of you younger people haven't seen. He's seen the great players that some of you guys haven't seen, but he has an eye view of it. And so we're going to try to pull these golden nuggets out of him. So we bring to you Bobby Lewis, three-time All-American, South Carolina State, fabulous. I don't want to say magician, but just one of the best ball handlers that come out of Philadelphia ever. And he is bringing a wealth of things to us. So I want to introduce my guest, my friend, my mentor, Bobby Lewis. How you doing today, Bobby?
Good evening, Andre. How are you and the family?
Hey, everybody's doing good, man.
Good.
This is a treat for me, so I'm excited. I got to calm myself down so I can do my job. But anyway, and it's not a job. This is just fun for me. But anyway, so Bobby, tell us a little bit about your humble beginnings in basketball, and how you kind of got started with basketball. Where did you
Well,
start?
basically, Andre, I started at 8 years old. Before television or anything, we used to have to watch the great players of Philadelphia. And some of your audience may not even remember some of the great players, Hall of Famers like John Chaney, Guy Rogers, and these guys from Philadelphia. We used to have to sit on the sidelines and just watch them play. And I was a little guy sitting on the sidelines, and we used to run out in the court when they took off and practice and shot up shots. And then after they were ready to play again, we got to go sit down and watch. So that's how we learned the game. And in Philadelphia, we had steps. We had steps to take. The little guys, the big guys, and whatever, and you knew your place.
Mm-hmm. So
And we went from there, like you were a little guy beyond me, and you watch me play. So that's the
exactly.
way.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a lineage. We came up in a lineage of greatness at that time. And basketball, from my memory, and I'm sure it's a part of your history too, is that the Philadelphia basketball tradition is just was packed with basketball everywhere. People were playing basketball everywhere around the city of Philadelphia.
Without a doubt. It was a religion.
So now, as a small young man, what made you think you could get out here with some of these big guys that are out on the basketball court?
Well, basically, I had very good mentors. I had guys that when I was a small guy, I always played with the guys who were 4 and 5 years older than me.
Hmm.
And these are the guys now who are still my friends. They're 80ish. I'm in my 70s.
I hear
So
you.
that's the way it worked. And they helped me. I used to fall down. They used to pick me up. And I never stopped trying, Andre. I always watched. And I became a student of the game, wanted to know everything about basketball. And that's what helped propel me to be a player and wanted to be a player because I had good mentorships.
So here's an important point that I like to bring up what you just said about studying the game, because in today's game, it's not as much to study. Because if you eliminate basically the fundamentals of the game, which when you say study the game, you had just certain things you had to learn to do. You had to know how to, you know, guard a pick and roll. You had to know how to run the fast break with the guy in the middle with the ball. You know, you had to box out. You know, there's a lot of different aspects of the game, even the way you caught the ball, how you dribble the ball, all these fundamentals that we had to learn as a player is what you were studying when you were watching. Today's game, you basically just, you know, have talent and you just see that you got to shoot the three, you got to dribble, pass, and shoot. It's, you know, it's not as much. We had to learn all these offenses. These coaches had different offenses you had to learn how to, you know, cut and what to do. So the game was a more skill game, would you say, in your day than it is as far as all the things you had to learn to be able to get out there on the court and play?
Without a doubt, Andre, and everything you said is correct because the fundamentals of the game, the guys today are more talented because they have, you know,
Yeah, evolution, the
more,
things to evolve, better
yeah,
training, better food, better, you know.
yeah, travel and everything. Because that's the whole thing. I try to be a historian of the game and understand how the great players like now, everybody don't consider the records and different things of the older players back in the
Mm-hmm.
60s and 50s and whatever. But those guys didn't have charter jets,
Right,
like the food, the trainers. If they had a sprained ankle, you would just do it yourself.
right,
But now they got catering. Like I was laughing the other day about the NBA watching the NBA game. Like it's about 12 assistants now.
right,
You know, we didn't have that nowadays.
right,
The coach and assistant coach.
right,
But the main thing guys have to understand, you have to understand the fundamentals of the game. And once you understand the fundamentals of the game, you become better in itself once. And people think of normal things like you mentioned, catching the ball.
right.
Catching is a skill.
Yes,
But some guys, they brush over that and don't understand about the skill of catching and have that eye-hand coordination to catch the ball. You can't do anything until you catch the ball
right,
first. And then when you catch the ball, it's the other fundamentals like I can improve a player by his speed,
right,
running better. Like the middle on basketball is running.
right.
If you don't want to run, you're not going to be a player.
Mm-hmm.
And running was the kind of thing, and you saying about me was speed, controlling my speeds. And I knew being a small guy that I had to become faster and faster and then use those speeds to change, stop and go, and that those kind of things. And then when I met the coaches, such as the great John McClendon, who helped me, I was always a fast guy, but he helped me with the change of pace
Mm-hmm.
and those kinds of things. So you just have to learn on your, you know, your coaching and what have you to improve your whole fundamentals of the game.
Yeah, one of those coaches in the lineage of John McClendon, my coach, John Wooden, he used to have, you know, change of pace, change of direction. We had to do that drill every day in practice. Change of
Right.
pace, change direction. Because once you learn how to navigate like that, you can get by and around if you can handle the ball, of course, anybody. But I want to ask you while we're on this topic, before we move on, about how important was touch, fingertip touch in this, you know, in your game and in the game, the way you saw, how important was that when you had it or didn't have it?
Oh, touch is very important, Andre. I call it in the whole fundamentals of the game in the hard shot using the backboard. A lot of guys don't know what that those square on
Mm-hmm.
the backboard is for.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hit that line on the backboard on either side, it's gonna go in every time.
Exactly.
Some guys never knew how to use that. And see people and some of the greatest players that ever played the game, and my favorite player, which you know, is Wilt Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm.
Wilt Chamberlain was a shooter. He could
Right.
hit the. He had one of the best bank shots that was ever created. He used to shoot from 15, 20 feet with that fadeaway,
Right.
and he used to hit the square.
Right.
Hit the square and boom, boom. They call it the bank shot
Right.
back in the day. And the bank shot, you hit that white box, and it's gonna go in the basket. And he proved it quite a bit by scoring 101 games.
Right. No question. I'm gonna get back. I'm gonna get back to you on Wilt, but I want to stay on the touch in relationship to you dribbling the ball, because a lot of young players and kids that dribble the ball, a lot of times they have to look at the ball. So one of the definitions I came up with for dribbling is the ability to make the ball come up at the speed you need when you need it. So if the ball's coming up at the speed you need when you need it, that's touch. That's your ability to make that ball go down with the right amount of pressure for the situation you're facing, whether you're going low or cutting through two guys or getting around a guy or going full speed or just walking the ball off the court. Every dribble is important. How you put that ball down is how it's going to come up. So kids look at the ball because they dribble the ball and then where's the ball? They got to go look. Let me look over there and make sure that ball coming back up, because you don't have the right touch on that ball to make it come back up. So you being known as the type of great dribbler that you were, how important was that as you were coming along as a young person to realize that you needed to have fingertip touch on that ball to make it do what you wanted it to do?
Oh, without a doubt. You just have to practice, practice, practice. And nothing substitutes practice. And you have to get the fingers stronger, and you have to push the ball down. I used to do drills like a constant drill, like dribbling the ball to my side and see how many dribbles you could do in 30 seconds. And I could always try to double that. So in 30 seconds, I could do 60 dribbles.
Wow.
With right hand, and then you switch it over to the left hand.
Right.
So if you're doing 60 dribbles in 30 seconds, that's really moving the basketball.
Yeah.
But you only can do that as you get your fingers stronger, and you don't have to look at the ball. Like you said, Andre, that's the main fundamental. It's going to come back up.
Right.
There's air in that ball, and you put it down there. You got to take your head up off of the dribble and just look straight ahead. And not only looking straight ahead, but with a comfortable straight ahead. So the hand and the eye coordination work together. You don't have to look
about it. So
first of dribbling.
Yep. Sorry for cutting in on you. But so now when you leave from the dribble to make the pass, another thing I've come up in my Touch Club lab studies for the last 10 years is that the pass needs to have something on it. Oh, before I go there, I wanted to, one more thing on the dribbling. A lot of times I see guys today, and I call them shoulder dribblers. They're dribbling, their shoulder is dribbling the ball, and I dribble with my wrist, my forearm, and like you said, I could just make that ball, whatever speed I needed to come up at, I knew how much energy to put on it. Of course, you have to have stronger hands. You got to have touch, that's for sure. But it's your wrist and your forearm that's the one that's dribbling the ball. Because when a guy, I was telling a bunch of young kids, I said, when you dribble with your shoulders and you coming up court like that, that's why guys get stripped so much nowadays. Because if I'm a defender, I'm watching them show you doing all that to dribble each dribble. I'm like, I'm reading that bounce, and sooner or later I'm gonna go wow, and come take that ball from you, man. Because you dragging on your dribbles. Whereas a quick dribble, boom, 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 guy try to get it, you could just move it out of the way to get it away from him. But when you relying on all this to dribble the ball, there's a flaw in that. But it's so popular among young people, they think it looks cool, I guess. But it's not the most effective way to dribble.
Correct. And the whole thing, the dribble, the hand is the extension of the dribble, and the fingers are the most important thing. And what you were saying about the shoulder, I always taught that make your arms those webs, move them out, move the ball out as far as you can from your body. Once you do that and handle the ball away from your body, you're really improving your skill of handling the ball. Because I call it, it's easy and safe to keep the ball from shoulder to shoulder.
Right.
I call it, but when you extend that dribble out to your right and to your left and back and forth, you're going to be a better ball handler and be able to go places on the floor.
Right.
That's the main thing.
So you saw your place. So now you get to well, I want to go back to Wilt before I go on because you know in today's
All right, this Will,
yeah
God
yeah
pass the ball to Will.
yeah and we're gonna get to him real quick too. But before I got since you brought up his name when you said your player that you like, so you had an eyes view of Wilt. Now I've told people over and over again the many accomplishments that he had or whatever. But while I got you on now, right now, what they're doing is a lot of these young guys are saying, well, I didn't see it with my eye,
Right.
So therefore I'm going to downplay the accomplishment. And I look at it and I say, well, okay, you wasn't there for the Revolutionary War, but you accepting that the United States of America was won and was able to exist because of that, even though you didn't see it, you don't take any credit away from that. You don't take any credit away from the North beat the South in the, over slavery in the Civil War. You don't go around saying, oh, well, them guys in the North. No, they won and you weren't there. You didn't see, none of us saw any of it, but we
Right.
give it this credit because we know that it took a lot for them to accomplish what they accomplished. So here you got Wilt over here. He's playing against everybody he played against just about is in the Hall of Fame. All the major centers, Willis Reed, the big boy, Zelmo Beatty, Nate Thurman. I mean, just
Wait,
go on and on and on.
Walt Bellamy.
Yeah, Walt Bellamy. I mean, so I mean, these guys are beasts, but
Right.
Wilt was Wilt. And so what I want you to do is that just give us a little view of what you thought about Wilt Chamberlain in a capsule.
Well, in a capsule, which Andre, from being a great player yourself, it takes stamina to play basketball.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of stamina. And I don't know of anyone that was ever stronger than Wilt Chamberlain. And to do what he accomplished in the NBA is phenomenal. Like I hear people talking about different centers could pass the ball and do this. Wilt was the greatest scorer, and people don't realize he was the greatest passer.
Mm-hmm.
When it came, he won an NBA assist title.
Right.
Now, how many centers ever won an NBA assist title?
Right.
But when they were saying Wilt was scoring, he was just a scorer. He said, okay, I'm going to assist title. And he did win this title one year in the NBA. A lot of people don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
But to become a great player and a scorer, he could score the ball because of his strength and his speed. And it wasn't all on dunks. Like he did dunk the ball, was the most fantastic dunker I ever seen,
Right.
who could dunk the ball with two balls at one time and do different things. He could do the unbelievable stuff on the court. But as a scorer, it took stamina. I mean, the average 50 points.
Right.
That's phenomenal. I mean, I don't know. Now the guys got load management and only can play certain minutes.
Right.
Wilt always played over the 48 minutes because he played overtime and he played all the time. He never came out the game.
Right.
So that's the thing. And I tell people all the time about strength and those kinds of things and fundamentals of basketball. If you tried to score 100 points by yourself, go in the gym by yourself and just do ordinary shots and maybe a few layups and whatever, jump shot, see how long it would take you to score 100 points without nobody guarding you.
Good point.
Nobody guarding you.
Right.
See how long it would take you to score 100 points,
Right.
and see if you be tired after that.
Right.
It's phenomenal. Now just think of him playing somebody playing you, but
Right.
just there by yourself and let me know how long it would take you to score 100 points.
Wow. That's phenomenal. That's great points, Bobby. Very good.
Right.
Now,
But he, I mean, it's no comparison. It's no
right.
comparison of Wilt Chamberlain and people saying he couldn't play in this day and time.
Oh, please.
One thing I like about Wilt always was ready to play. He kept his sneakers in his car.
Right. That's right. That's good.
Played anywhere, anybody, anytime.
Right. Amen. That's it. That's it. That's it. Now, so at what stage? Because we know in Philadelphia that I could dribble, you could dribble, Earl Monroe could dribble, John Chaney could dribble. There was a lot of dribblers around.
Right.
But then when you talk about Guy Rogers, you and Sonny Hill and some of you guys talk about Guy Rogers, you put him in another category. Now, for me, that was hard for me to believe when I first heard about that, the category that you put him in. When Sonny would say, "Man, Andre, good as you dribble," I said, "Wait a minute, Sonny, I ain't bragging or nothing, but when I dribbled the ball was a part of my hand. I'm dribbling this thing and I can get anywhere on the court I want to. I got complete control of the ball, either hand. I own the ball. Now you telling me this guy is dribbling the ball beyond that?"
Yes. Yes, that's Guy Rogers. Guy Rogers is like Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt Chamberlain's in the class of his own,
Right.
and Guy Rogers is in the class of his own. Uno Nuno, he's the number one. Fantastic teacher, fantastic person, period. And he was my mentor, and he just showed me so many things in handling the ball. And Guy Rogers was just unbelievable. If you ask Tiny Archibald, who's the best, he'll tell you Guy Rogers. Everybody that was back in the day was talking about the best ball handler they ever saw was Guy Rogers. And I was glad for him to be one of my mentors.
What was his physical attribute as far as his hands? Because I know he got touched because in order to make the ball come up, but it was something else you used to tell me about guys' hand speed or something about his hands that was so unique.
Reflexes. Andre, that's the whole thing. I attribute a lot of my success in basketball, and Guy was the same way. Guy was a great table tennis player, ping pong. And I became a good ping pong player. And ping pong is eye-hand coordination. And if you got that hand-eye coordination, you'd be surprised how you become a great ball. Of course, it's reflexes. Guy did a thing, and we used to do a thing, and I became a part of it. It wasn't the most sanitized thing to do, but in the summertime, Guy could catch flies. You see a fly going around, the next thing you know, right hand or left hand, you reach out and grab it and shake it and throw it down.
Wow.
Catch a fly, a bee, or anything like that. Just reach out with the right hand or the left hand and catch it, throw it down, and boom, I caught it. That's reflexes.
Yeah. That's getting up there in the Bruce Lee level.
Right on.
Yeah. So now when you went to Bartram High School, you also had another great player that was on the team at school with you. Who was that player?
Earl the Pearl Monroe.
But wait a minute. You had you and Earl Monroe on the same team.
No, Earl Monroe was ahead of me.
Oh, okay.
But we practiced together. The JV and the varsity practiced together.
Oh, okay.
And that was a big advantage for our team that be playing against the seniors, such as Earl the Pearl, Steve Smith, and those kind of guys, and a lot of great players was on that varsity team and we played practice against them every day in the same gym.
Wow. So when at that time were you under mentorship of Guy Rogers?
Yes.
One of the things that he taught you was the spin move.
Oh, right. Correct. Guy Rogers was the first one that ever did the 360 spin. And what the spin was all about, which people, a lot of guys are doing it today, it has revolutionized the game, is that when you're going up, especially on a fast break, when we played basketball, it was a fast break, the guy in the middle and the wing players filling the lanes. And what you had to do a lot of times when a person impedes your speed or what have you, you had to keep going. So Guy Rogers was the first one I ever saw to do this move where you could spin the ball, it's like a pirouette
Right.
dancer. You spin around the person that's in front of you and you keep on going with the left hand
Right.
on the left side or the right hand on the right side.
Mm-hmm.
But he would break the person off by splitting the middle of them, and then you go away from them and you keep on going. So that was the spin move. And Guy Rogers was the best ever. He was the creator, and he was the best ever doing it. And he used to leave guys standing there
Right.
waiting for the charge. It wasn't a charge. He was going.
Right.
He had that saying where you always create real estate. You always go toward the basket, not away from the basket, but toward. Don't let anybody stop you
Right.
from going toward the basket.
Wow. And so
Mhm.
did you pass that information on?
Oh, definitely so. Mr. Monroe, Mr. Monroe taught it, and he was 6'3". He started doing it, and it was all over for everybody else.
Right. Well, um, yeah, Earl put a stylation on it. Guy Rogers faced a lot of stylation situations, with Bob Cousy, who was wanted to be was more of like a little trickster with the ball. Guy was just so good. He just seemed to navigate through the game of basketball, much like you did. I mean, you know, you had tricks you could do, but they was all in the flow of the game that just
Right.
evolved, and you just did it. And
Well,
for Earl, he eventually became good at it because he needed that spin move because he couldn't do what you could do, which was outspeed a guy. He had to rely on that move to get around people because he didn't have the speed that
right.
just out, maneuver guys.
Right. Well, Rogers was he had the speed, he had the stop and go, and these were things in basketball and the crossovers, I mean, crossing over and spinning, and, it was unbelievable to see him play. Plus, he had a partner had Temple and Hyle Lear, which was one of the greatest shooters in the game.
Mhm.
And when him and Guy played at Temple, it was unbelievable backcourt. And some people say today was the greatest backcourt ever in college basketball, NCAA basketball.
Wow, that's big time there.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as a result of your play at Bartram, you ended up going to South Carolina State. Were you offered a scholarship, or how did you get down there?
Well, like back there in the day, most of the guys then couldn't go to the big colleges and universities, even though I went to South Carolina State by choice because a lot of great players were down there before me, a la like Bill Morgan, Sonny Jackson, and these guys were great players in the city, and they went to South Carolina State to play for our great coach Ed Martin, and it was just a great system down there they had, and what have you. But I was supposed it was funny. Jack Kraft at Villanova was recruiting me to take Wally Jones's place I was a senior at Bartram High School, and Wally Jones was a senior All-American at Villanova. And they wanted me to come into Villanova to take Wally Jones's place. And Wally Jones, one of my mentors too, Wally and Walt Hazard, great players at Overbrook, which are your old school. And but I decided that I wanted to go out of the city and go down to South Carolina. And I knock on wood, I got my South Carolina.
Yeah, I see you.
They on here,
Yeah,
which was the greatest move I ever made in life.
Amen.
Because I found my wife of 45 years and what have you. And it was a great time down there. Had a great basketball career and enjoyed it. And now I have friends from South Carolina State that I've been having from 50 years, you know, still friends of mine.
During your time, and I don't want to bring up bad memories, but during the time that you came out of school, so you were an All-American, small college All-American, right?
Correct.
And did you 1 year or?
No, I was only 1 year.
Okay. Your last year, what were your statistics?
Statistic last year was 30.8 and 12 assists.
What?
And see, people won't realize, like I asked them, two statistics I can claim. That's the 30, and anybody averaged 30 points and 12 assists. And that was for a season. And then the one game I had 22 points, 22 assists, and 44 points in one game.
Man.
And that was my last college game because we had our season interrupted because of the Orangeburg riots when students like Kent State had got killed. And Kent State, a couple kids got killed at Orangeburg, South Carolina. But Kent State got all the publicity, but that cut our season off. And my last game was 44 points and 22 assists.
Man,
I'm being a historian of the game. I asked anybody, has anybody known anybody to ever do that?
Right.
A lot of people scored more points. A lot of people had more assists, but I don't think anybody has had 44 and 22.
No, they not dropping buckets and dropping dimes as they say now, all like that. They ain't doing it like that and haven't done it like that. So,
well, that's called Andre making the play.
Yeah, no.
In the play, you either score or you make an assist for the basket.
Right, and you were one of the best at doing that. Now, when you got ready for the draft time, this is the way I look at it. So you came out in what year?
68.
So 68. So you had later Tiny Archibald came after you, about a year or so like that after you. And then you had Calvin Murphy that was over there at Niagara. And so, those two guys got the right break.
Correct.
But at the time, people have to understand, once Oscar Robertson came along and Jerry West and people like that were bigger guards, people were looking for the bigger guards. They weren't looking for a little guard. So little guards had trouble against the system. And I believe that, a lot of things happen for a reason that sometimes you can't see. So you didn't get a real fair shake. Because if you're doing that in college like that, there's no reason you can't do it in the pros. It's nothing other than a mental thing that you just have to figure it out or whatever. But once you get there, and everywhere else you played among pro players, you were doing those same things. Nobody could really stop you from getting where you wanted to go. So, and young people have to understand also, there was a quota still in basketball, even in these years, where blacks were able to play now because in 66, Texas Western beat Kentucky, the all-white team, and the starting 5 team, the road to glory and all like that. That's why it was a big story, because now the first time you had 5 blacks in the NCAA championship starting, these are records. So it shows you things were starting to evolve, but you still had a certain amount of white guys that needed to be on the team, even though it wasn't, totally segregated like before, when
Right.
no blacks were playing at the schools. So that, do you feel like that may have had some impact on deciding whether to keep you, or what do you feel?
It was a tough time then, Andre. Basically, every team, of course, had their quotas and what have you, but it's just like, being with the right team and
Right,
what have. And I got drafted by the Dallas Chaparrals, and they were looking for guards because their guard play the previous years was so bad
right,
that that year they just drafted all guards, and I was one of the guards. Um, was Ron Boone, who was the longest streak in basketball in playing consecutive games.
right.
He went on to be a good
Yeah,
ABA player and a good NBA
yeah.
player.
I played with them in Kansas City. King.
Oh, great guy too. That's my
Mhm.
guy. And Ron and I were battling. We also had Willie Worsley.
Oh yes, he's a
We
good
also
player.
had Glenn Combs,
Oh
was
man,
a 3-point shooter. So we had a lot of guys battling for that guard position
that's
on that team.
right.
And fortunately, they wanted to go with Ron Boone and
Mhm.
Combs and those kind of guys. So it was a numbers game.
Right,
So it was a numbers game. So I went on to play in Europe a little bit, and then I went on to come back and play in the Eastern Basketball League for 4 years. And that was a good situation because you could work and you could play on the weekends. So
right,
that was a situation.
right. So now, as a result of not getting somewhere where you had the ability to get to, um, how did you spin off into developing your program for two ball basketball? What? How did that come about?
Well, I basically took it from Guy Rogers. Guy Rogers and I became so close that I was the only one he would come get. He would come to my house in his red Corvette. I never get convertible Corvette. And everybody say, why is Guy Rogers going to pick you up?
Right.
Because I was the only one that would challenge him running
Mm-hmm.
and playing full court. And that was another skill of playing full court one-on-one
Right.
and picking each other up at 94 feet. And we would work and be dribbling sweat and what have you, working hard. And I pushed him, he pushed me, and
Right. But
everybody,
I'm
you
gonna
know,
I'm gonna
guy.
stop you real quick. I'm gonna stop you real quick. Let me stop you real quick. So yeah. So when you turned me on to that one-on-one, the full court, I was like, this guy is crazy. Then we go
Yeah,
full court one-on-one. He's quick. I'm quick. We going
right,
back and forth because once I get the ball, I'm ready to go. And once he got the ball, he ready to go.
right on.
And so the funny story, the reason why I say I gotta cut you off for a second, is because I used to have guys, and right in the Christian Street Y, which both of us, grew up in, and played ball throughout our years at the Christian Street Y in Philadelphia. I used to have guys. I said, okay, man, I'm gonna work out at such a time. So they come to the first workout. One of the things we did was cap off the practice with full court one-on-one. So man, about 2 weeks later, I'm practicing. I said, man, I run into the dude. Hey, Jimmy, where you been, man? I thought you was working out, man. We trying to get the work done. Man, Dre, look, I work out, but man, you crazy, man. Ain't no way in the world. You think I'm gonna keep running? You crazy, man. You out there on another level, whatever. So I understand how important that was for you.
Oh, definitely so. And those kind of things make you a player. And Guy used to do a thing that I thought was fantastic too. And I used to do it with the guy because I became a program director at the Christian Street Y after years under Bill Morton. There was one of my mentors growing up, and we used to do just Guy used to do things by playing 5-on-1. So he would pick out 5 guys,
Ooh-wee.
any guys, and he said, okay, I'm gonna play you. He said, what you mean you gonna play me? We gonna play whole court
Right.
and 5 guys. And he said he would play them. If y'all win, y'all would get sodas or whatever.
Right.
And he would beat them.
Hmm.
And I took that same thing where I would get kids at the Y who were young, aspiring young players, and I would play them 5-on-1
Hmm.
and beat them.
Yeah.
And that's because they, I had this, that would help you with the speed, the
Exactly.
stamina, stop and go, the spin dribble, the through the legs, behind the back,
Right.
and you would score.
Right.
And that's what it was all about, Andre.
Yep. So you developed your program because, so let's kind of set it up because you had an innovator. The person I hear you talking about was your mentor, Guy Rogers, was an innovator in basketball. I mean, he's doing things that we take for granted now. The crossover, everybody, hey man, the crossover and this and that and other, like it's something new. But
Right,
this guy was doing it at a time when it wasn't the popular thing to do. When
right,
African Americans, some people in different parts of the country thought the people that played like that were playing jungle basketball, some kind of offbeat basketball, because they were adding this flair and these other moves and things that wasn't necessarily done by other players in the white communities that was playing ball. So this
and
is the
I
innovation.
interrupt you to say, put the name in there of John Chaney. John
Exactly.
Chaney is in the Hall of Fame as a great coach. But John Chaney was one of the great ball handlers too.
Exactly.
And when him and Guy Rogers got together and played against each other,
Woo.
that was a battle.
Yeah,
That
people
was
don't
a
know.
battle.
Yeah, John Chaney wasn't nobody to mess around with, okay? Because not only would he play, he would knock your block off too.
Oh yeah, he was a competitor.
Yep.
But Guy Rogers was a competitor. So when you saw that game between
Right.
1-on-1 with Rogers and Chaney, that was a sight to see.
Wow. Amazing.
Mm,
So now when did you decide, when did your idea come in your mind to start saying this need that basketball had for two balls?
right.
What triggered it?
Well, I took a little bit of what Rogers was doing. Like Guy used to just mess around after we finished doing our workouts and what have you. He would just mess around with the two balls and just do things and not in any uniform fashion and what have you. He would just, and I would never do uh, anything like that. But what have you, I started thinking once um, I was going to get my master's at the Y. We had a program where you could go and get your master's degree at Springfield College. And it was a 2-year program. And I would go to Springfield every month for 2 years and come back to the Y and work. And then they said that you had to do a special project of anything that you would like to do that you never had time to do. And that's when I started thinking about the two balls and putting together a program that, because most guys use their dominant hand, they don't use their offhand and what have you. And most people can't dribble with their offhand or can't shoot or do anything with it because they never programmed it. So
Right.
I was thinking that, okay, if you take two basketballs and start to work with two basketballs and start to dribble with them in unison, and you start to take them out of dribble, out of unison like music, and what have you, off beats and what have you. So if you could learn to deal with these two basketballs, dribbling, passing, shooting, and doing everything, I said, look like you have something there to improve your total ball handling. And then once you get the one ball, go back to the one ball, your
Right.
ball handling better because now you're using two hands on the
Right.
one ball. And
Wow.
that's what I said to you and Ollie Johnson
Hmm.
and all. Hey, look, man, I got an idea that I'm trying to put
Right.
together,
Hmm.
but don't I'm crazy.
Right.
But we're gonna work with these two basketballs
Right.
and then I had you and Andre and Phil Walker with
Right.
the got a ring with the Washington Bullets and
Hmm.
different pros to come in before the preseason.
Right.
And let's work and see what you think about this and give
Right.
me your
Yeah.
so
Well,
that
yeah, I remember when I went through the system, you know, it revealed some things. I had some good usage of my left hand, but you know, I had never practiced these particular drills. So it took a minute to kind of get going. And eventually I was able to, you know, hang with you to go places and display things and kind of show it after a while after I got the knack of it. But it
right.
got in my muscle memory what I needed to do. But did you know then that you were revolutionizing the world of basketball? I mean, you know, you talk right. Don't answer yet, but you talk as if a person, you know, you're giving an honest assessment of how it started. It's a very pure um, idea that you came up with. But the reality is that if it was a way to patent or trademark it, that's why I was saying in the introduction that it's so, you know, it is so permeated basketball all over the world, not just the United States. I mean, you go to China, Japan, Australia, um, England, France, you know, Alaska, you know, Scandinavian countries. All these kids and people, um, whether you're on the social media, so you have a lot of people in today's world, Bobby, that want to say, well, you know, you old, you ain't relevant. No, wait a minute. No, this guy right here is relevant because everything you trying to do in basketball with the two ball, you see in the commercials, all of the branding of products um, is affected by two ball. You got two guys out there dribbling two balls. You got kids on Instagram and TikTok trying to show different moves they can do with two balls. You got guys shooting the ball, one ball and catching it and putting the other one back up, one after the other. All that stuff, all that came from you. And yet, most of the people listening to me, they don't have a clue who you are. They don't know anything about Bobby Lewis. They just think this stuff just fell out of the sky, but it actually has an originator, a person that saw the value of it, and you have been a gift to the game of basketball way beyond the credit that you get. But hopefully, this is a start to people knowing that these things right here, this gentleman is the most relevant basketball guy from the old school, if they want to say or whatever. But he's relevant because you do what he taught many pros to do, and many people have benefited from his idea with two balls. And so I want you to tell me also, you explain why you was doing now. Just say on the shooting part. Well, like, cause I know the first one of the drills, that's what we left out. The dribbling, I was cool. I said, okay, I got it. I'm following. Bobby's cool. But then when you went to the shooting, you said, okay, Andre, you got two balls that you want to shoot the one with one hand, and then you're going to switch the other ball into the hand that you shot the ball with and catch the ball coming out of the net and then keep it going on a rotation. Boom, bam, boom, bam. Now you talking about touch. You better have a touch because you, in order to make it work, when you shot the layup, the hard part for me is to get the proper the feel. This is why touch is so important. The most dominant force in the game of basketball. That's my definition of touch into especially in today's game, having to shoot the threes and all this other stuff you got to do. A big man, 7 foot, you got to shoot the three. The touch is that when you shot the one ball, you had to make it hit the backboard like you was talking about a certain way, or even if it's a straight in one, like if you do it in the middle and you don't use the backboard, you just shoot it straight in. You got to make that shot go straight in to keep the rhythm of that drill going. So if in other words, if you shot the ball with this hand and you made it, but the ball ran around the rim and all like that before it came down, it could affect your timing. I mean, you know, you had to be really good when you didn't make the shot. But the easiest way is if you put that perfect layup up there every time and hit the back one, go straight through the basket, it's easier. Then you can catch this one, move this ball over here, catch the other one, you know, and then shoot it and keep the rhythm going. So, you know, tell us about that when you took it from the dribbling two ball to the shooting two ball.
Right. Well, basically, all of this came from really, I call it going to the court by myself into basically the YMCA, and I developed all these drills. But the only way I developed them, I used to chart myself. I couldn't do any of those drills at first,
Right.
none. But each day I would go back and keep trying. One day I would catch the ball, and the next day I would catch it twice. Next day I would catch it 3 times.
Right.
Next day I would catch it 5, 10, 12, 20.
Mm-hmm.
And I would chart it. So that's the way I had a, I was putting together a self-evaluation system because I always thought and I always practiced basketball by myself.
Right.
And that's where I started saying, well, wow, this could be a system. Whereas I became a great ball handler because I had Guy Rogers and
Right.
I saw John Chaney and all the great ones. But I was just saying, what you had to do was that this could be taught, everybody could learn from this system. So that's when I was putting together the master's program at Springfield, which is the birthplace of basketball. And
Exactly.
that's the thing I always got on the YMCA about. Most people don't realize that basketball was invented in the YMCA.
Right.
But everybody think Nike did it or whoever did
Right.
it.
Right.
God
No,
first,
no, it wasn't them.
why? But the Y invented basketball, and that's one thing that helped me tremendously in putting this self-evaluation program where it became dribbling, shooting, passing, and the main thing, Andre, one of the fundamentals of basketball is faking the basketball.
Exactly.
And most players today even don't give what you call a real fake. And like
Right.
it's fake fakes and it's real fakes. But
Right.
I used to do, and guys like Earl Monroe had real fakes. They would move the basketball from that hand-eye coordination. But the main thing with all of this, with the shooting, it all became muscle memory. And
Right.
once you get the rhythm together, your timing, and those kind of things together, that's where you improve your rhythm, your timing, your coordination, and that's when it all comes together for you.
Now this, because what you breaking down here is science. See, you're breaking down in layman's terms the science of the mind and the brain and the fingertips and all these things that go with it. And you also are bringing up the importance and value of the muscle memory, the
Right,
thing that records. See, that's what I try to tell kids. You got a muscle memory is a recorder. It's like a hard drive in the computer. It has all the data, good and bad, that you do. And I'm going to spin off on the touch glove on this real quick because it's right down my alley. And that's
right,
what makes the touch glove so unique and a gift and a miracle worker because you got one of the five senses. You know, you got hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, and you got touch. And now to be able to take that information and build where you can develop more touch is amazing. And that's what your program was doing, which is an evolution and innovation, I want to say, in basketball. And then I came from under you, and I took touch out of that formula that I learned from the two ball and said, you got to have this. Because when I would try to teach people what you had in the two ball and what I had as a dribbler to other kids, they'd say, okay, coach, I do it. And then they go out there, but they couldn't do it because you have to break the habit. And that's what you're saying, how you couldn't do it, but through repetition, you were able to, and you charted that repetition. Well, what the touch glove basically does is it cuts off for you all the possible wrongs that can happen. It's a simple formula. This is what I had to explain to the patent office to get a patent for the touch gloves, is that it cuts off any mistakes when you're releasing the ball for a shot or you're dribbling the ball. If it's going on your palm of your hand, it cuts that off. How does it cut it off? You can't feel the ball. The special self-correcting technology design that I have in here, this my secret formula, cuts off all your sensory feelings. You can't feel the ball on your palm of your hand. Or say a shooter shoots the ball, but it comes off the side of their hand somewhere over here. But a shooting coach, and that you can't see that with the naked eye. So what the touch glove does, it goes in and cuts all those areas out. So none of that information is going to the brain, and only the correct information on the fingertips is actually going to the muscle memory, and that muscle memory begins to get developed, and then it improves you. And in your system, because you have two ball, it forces the issue of you having to have touch to accomplish. You couldn't do your drills if the ball hit in the palm of your hand. It would be over. Like them layups, when you shoot the ball, if you ain't got no touch on the ball, like I said, the ball gonna roll all around. If you don't catch the ball with your fingertips, you have to catch balls with your fingertips, not with the palm of your hand. If the ball's going through the net, you switch this hand over, this ball over here, that ball might fall because you're hitting the palm of your hand. You're not using your fingertips to stop the ball to catch it. This ball is coming, you let it hit the palm of your hand, it's gonna bounce away. So you're gonna be stumbling, the ball gonna be all over the place. So touch is essential. So how do you, so God gave everybody a certain level of touch. 95% of the people don't have great touch for basketball. 5% that are the best in the world, the Steph Currys, the Lillards, and all these Kevin Durant, these are special people because they're that 5%. You, me, we're part of the 5% of all the people that have this gift that we had originally, and we developed it more. So touch is something that's valuable. So when someone comes along, the reason why I fight with the system in a way, because I'm saying I can get you some more of that touch, that valuable entity. I can get you some more of that. And that's where your two ball has done for people. They realize that when they keep doing these drills, two ball, one, two, two, it's doing something. It's creating the muscle memory in that other brain, the other side of the brain, and saying, hey, you remembered I'm over here. You know, because your right hand stuff, your stuff you do with your right hand goes to your left hand side of your brain. Your left hand stuff is going to the right hand side. So, oh, dang, he using me more than ever. And that repetition builds into a development. And that's basically what the touch glove is doing, is forcing you to use your fingertips. And that, those hits to these constantly fingertips, 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 it develops touch and takes your touch level to another level. Where when you feel the ball, you have a sensitivity about it. And that's similar to what the two ball is doing for so many of these players out here, that and they haven't let it go. It's some things that never age. Two ball has never aged in basketball yet. It's still flourishing in the game. But go ahead, Bobby.
But Andre, what has happened to my grandson, Aiden Lewis, which we have incorporated the two ball with your touch glove.
Uh-oh.
He's really becoming a great player. And I'm really proud of him. He's a sixth grader. You're going to hear about the name. Remember the name, Aiden Lewis. My son has been doing a great job in teaching him. Yeah, and his Instagram is Aiden Lewis Instagram. Check him out.
Oh, yeah.
Aiden 27. Aiden Lewis 2027.
Aiden 2027. You heard that, folks.
I
Instagram.
know.
Check him out. Check him out.
Yeah, he's really pulling it all together with your help and with my doing the two ball things and what have you. Then you came with your touch glove. He is really putting it all together, and I'm really proud of him. He's one of the top players in Philly in the AAU circuits in sixth grade.
Wow. Now, let me ask you something, just speaking of Aiden. One of the problems I see is that, see, listening and receiving information, people leave that out of the equation on how good you can get. They don't see that part as an integral part of how you get better. Now, you already stated that you studied the history of the game. You studied the fundamentals of the game. You looked for everything you could find out about the game to get better in it. But today's players, they don't necessarily get into all of that. They don't even want to know about some of the older people. Oh, they old. I don't even want to know about them.
Right.
We all know that adults know you learn from history. You learn what to do, and you also learn what not to do. So history is a valuable element. Aiden's ability, willingness to listen is going to go a long way to him being successful, because that to me is one of the biggest problems. You got fathers. I got a friend of mine that's an NBA coach, right? Now,
Yeah.
the player's dream is to get to the NBA. You know what I mean? To get to the NBA. His
Mhm.
dad is in the NBA, but his dad tells me, man, coach, because I was his coach. He talking about, coach, he don't even want to. He ain't listen to me. What? You
Right.
he trying to get to the NBA. You in the NBA with the NBA players. You
Right.
see what they doing. You know what it takes, and he
Right.
don't want to listen to you. And a funny story, somebody you can relate to, because all the things you did with the two ball, going to the 5-star camps, Calipari, and all these guys did, Patino, all these people know about you. But
But you know, Calipari used to pick the balls up for me if I start camp.
here you go. But here's a funny Calipari story to me right now, and this is
Uh,
current news. Is that so? And I don't have, I didn't read every detail of it, but it's some little ruckus going on between him and the players or something like that. You know, some players talking back. Well, I don't know. It's
right.
discord going on there. They like 1-6 or something. The last time I looked, they won one game and lost it. They have been lost these games going back to the beginning of the 19th century. Something ridiculous like
Right.
that. They lost 1-6. Now, here's the problem I got with the players. Now, despite whether you like Calipari, despite whether you think he's a great coach or not a good coach, regardless of all that, whatever you may think, opinion you may have, he has been turning out NBA players year after year. He has a national championship, regardless of what you think. Now, why did you guys go to Kentucky? Well, I'm trying to get to the NBA. He's been getting one and done guys and putting five of them. Most schools get one and done, or two at the most. He's got five guys that all want to be one and done. 10 guys all want to be one and dones that are coming to Kentucky, and a lot of them are getting there. Whether they stay or not or whatever. And now you got players. You don't want to listen to him. He's got all the contact with the NBA coaches. These coaches that are going to listen, they're going to go, hey, Cal, what do you think? That's who they're going to go to. So it just shows you how important it
Right.
is for you to be able to listen and have some humility, and good common sense is important in being successful too. Just talk about that a little bit, the mental part of the game.
Well, basically, what's happening, the culture is changing right in front of our eyes, Andre. And you know, and I know that youngsters don't want to compete no more.
Right,
And that's the thing. Always said systems at Kentucky is wide open. He recruits the best, and what have you. When they get there, they have to compete for their playing time. And a
right,
lot of young guys today want to be, if things were given to them in AAU and
right,
what have you, when they come into a situation where they got to compete for their playing time and
right,
what have you, and they never did it before, it's a very strange thing to
right.
be into, and that's where the mental part of the game comes in, where
Mhm.
a lot of guys can't transfer that skill level into what they were doing before. Now they got to compete with somebody on the same level or just
Exactly.
as good. They don't want the challenge,
Right.
and that's what Cal is saying. Cal is saying, hey, all the time is open to whoever plays, but you got
Right.
to practice well and what have you. And a
Yeah.
lot of guys are ready for that.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. That's
Right.
Now I want to go back to your two ball history a little bit, because we got to now. Um, there was a time not too long ago that Kenny Smith, which was one of the people that came under your tutelage as far as your two ball, that's on TNT with Charles Barkley, and everybody knows Kenny Smith from North Carolina, great Dean Smith coach over there at North Carolina, um, you know, two-time NBA champion. He was doing a little drill on television, and he brought you up about the two ball system.
Yes, Kenny was one of my little guys, back in the day. Of course, his coach, Jack Curran, the legendary Jack Curran from Malloy, was a big believer in my program. And Jack used to always have me come to his camp to speak to his players. And one of his players was Kenny Smith. And then it was Chris Mullins was one of the campers. And then it also had a real young camper there named Kenny Anderson.
Oh, yeah. So you
A lot,
a lot of the
lot
main boys.
and Kenny I used to work with Kenny and show Kenny some of the things. And Kenny used to take, and I used to come like every year. So Kenny would take a piece of this, a piece of that,
Right.
and pull it all together. Then Kenny put it together to his program to even say that he did the same workout at North Carolina. He did the same workout at Houston when he became a two-time NBA champion. He
Right.
never strayed away from my program.
Right. Wow. And could give us a couple other names that you work with.
Oh, Dennis Scott,
Wow.
3D, and where I would help Dennis Scott into. Dennis Scott was a great shooter from high school on in. He could always shoot the three. That's why they call him 3D. But what I helped him with was concentration.
Hmm.
And what we did, he loved my drill at the basket called the 9-hole drill.
Right.
The 9-hole drill was where you had to shoot layups with two basketballs. You had to not hit the rim, and you had to make three in a row from the right side, the three from the middle, and three from the left side. And you couldn't hit the rim. So
Right.
that means you had to concentrate on your timing, your rhythm, and it's called the 9-hole drill. Now, everybody would get to make the three on their natural side hand.
Right.
Then you got to make it three in the middle, and then you got to make three on the other side. And a lot of times, when you come to that last shot, you would
Right.
hit them
Right.
because you didn't have that. Your concentration broke down or whatever. So
Right.
every day you practicing on this 9-hole drill. You make three on this side, three in the middle, and three on. You got to be perfect because you can't hit the rim.
Right.
And that's where, after Dennis worked with that drill for a number of times, he always could shoot the three. Then that's the year he broke the 3-point record in the NBA with
Wow.
12 3-pointers in a game because his concentration had
Right.
got.
Hmm. So you've impacted the game all these years, and basketball can be, um, it can take and it can give, and sometimes it doesn't always accreditate. But hopefully today, the people that fortunate enough to hear this tape will recognize that all the stuff that they see, all the two-ball basketball, all of the ideas about developing both hands at the same time. I want to say this before I finish that one point. So when I use the two ball, what I try to get the kids, they say, well, why am I doing the two ball? I said, well, look, the like I have the one drill where you have to do like speed dribble. So you dribble one, two balls, 10. Then you dribble the half court with the two balls, regular dribbling, till you get to the set half court. Then you got to do them again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then you do it the other end. Now, when you come back, you got to do alternating, which is 1, 2, 1, 2. A little bit more complicated now, 1, 2, 1, 2. And so, but I said, but you got to keep your hands right there where the ball is, because a lot of kids, they'll dribble one and their hand will just fall to the side or something, and but you got to keep your hands there. But what it's doing is forcing the other hand to do what your strong hand is doing. And that's how your other hand is going to become good, because the right hand or whatever, if you're left-handed or right-handed, the other hand has to keep up in the two ball. That's what, to me, makes it such a great thing. When you switch to the other hand, now you have to adjust. And so sometimes the kid will say, well, coach, this ball bounces one way, and the other ball bounces a different, don't have the same amount of air. I said, good. They said, what do you mean? I said, no, that's good because now you put the the one that you think bounces the best, put that in your weak hand, and then put the good ball, the one that's not that good, in your right hand, and then you have to still make them stay together. I gotta hear it. I ain't going. I don't even have to look at you. I can hear the balls if it's going down right. Whether you're doing the two balls, but bam, 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 bam. It should be one sound. Then if you're doing the alternating, it should be 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's what I should hear. So it's just unique how the training of that, and it, all of your drills, you're showing Dennis Scott that, but all your two ball drills require concentration. There's none of your drills give you a break. There's no place where you can lag and say, oh yeah, I can do this one, throw and look away. No, you got to be concentrating. Even on the layup one, you shooting that one ball, getting the other one, you got to concentrate. You dribbling with two balls, you make one mistake, your hand move over a little bit too much to hit the other ball.
Inning too.
Yeah,
It's two up. The ball's going to be going all over the
yeah.
place.
So,
But each day, that's why I say you got to leave your ego at the door,
right,
and you got to really concentrate and what have you. But I gotta throw in there the Steph Curry. Steph Curry was the one that put me on the map.
exactly, exactly. No, Steph loves.
Everybody was coming all over to
Right,
see Steph Curry do his pregame warm up. And
right.
the guy at school used to call me and say, Steph Curry's doing your workout.
Yep, exactly.
I say,
Well,
there you go.
yeah, well, the world needs to know, and it needs to be recorded. And that's what we're doing. We're recording the history right here on Touch In. We done touched in on an innovator, great person, great basketball player, great basketball historian, just a gem to basketball. And in my mind, you should be in the Hall of Fame. It's no question about it. You have impacted basketball in a way like none other in what you have put together here with this two ball system. And it's like I said, and it's around the world. It's not even just an American phenomenon. It's a worldwide phenomenon, and it's growing. It's not like it's filtering off. And like you said, Steph Curry gave it a spark, just added more to it because so many basketball players look at a player like you in your day and people like Steph Curry, because basically little guys, guys, they're not, LeBron James, 6'9", jumping out the gym and all this stuff. This just, you guys are skill players that just through skill, you can navigate out there with these giants on the court and these athletic guys and all this stuff here, but because you got the touch and ability to navigate the way you do, young kids think I can do that. Most kids can't sit there and say, well, hey, I'm gonna be like LeBron. You can act like LeBron, but to be LeBron, you gotta have that body, it's only, you gotta have it. You can't be Wilt Chamberlain because you gotta be 7 feet, but you can be Steph Curry. The common kid can dream. In your day, a common kid could look and say, a little guy can say, man, look at that little guy out there, man. He handling the ball. He ain't studying these big guys. He's doing whatever he wants to do. He putting on a show. That's what you used to do anyway. You used to put on a show.
Hopefully
But
this year, Ray, I'm on the ballot for the Naismith Hall of Fame. So
all right,
so hopefully I get them votes in for this
right.
year.
Well, we're gonna send them this to help them evaluate. Yeah, make sure they see this little podcast so we can make sure they understand. See, I think part of it is really understanding what we're talking about here. And hopefully I'll be able to present it in a way that people say, hey, dang, I never thought of it that way. Hey, we talking about a worldwide phenomenon that's growing, that started from years ago and has perpetuated itself, even though the system didn't recognize it and give it its proper position, because it should have been something that is a system that everybody knows who the originator of it is, and through that had you do even more than you did do, traveling around as much as you did and we did, with you at different times. They needed to know more about it. So I appreciate having you on the show. Like I said, you were my mentor. You the first one to say, hey, dribble in between these chairs. I was like, what? At the YMCA, I'm
Right.
barely in junior high school, and this guy's telling me to dribble in between these chairs, and you can work on your game. So you passed on your information from what you got from Guy Rogers and people like that, and then and watching the John Cheneys of the world and people like that, and then over to me, and I've taken it, and now so we have a innovative lineage coming out of Philadelphia. We have Guy Rogers setting the trend, the trendsetter. Then we got you coming along. We got Earl Monroe taking the spin move to a dimension nobody else has been able to do. I mean, Jimmy Walker was good at doing it. We know Guy was the master of it, but that passed on, and he elevated it because of his platform he had, Earl Monroe, to another level. And then the spins you used to make on people was amazing. I used to spin every time. If I got to get by, I got to spin on them. Swoop, spin, there's no problem. Get
Right.
by the guy. And, so there's an innovative flair that has come out of the great ball handlers and things of that nature from the Philadelphia lineage. And I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to say, I know you, and I'm proud to have been able to do this podcast and be able to expose the greatness of Bobby Lewis and his two ball system, and just give him the credit that he deserves. Why he's still here with us, and that's the key, man. And I'm glad that say that the touch glove is evolving in that same vein to try to get players better, because that's ultimately our goal, and that's what made what you did so great, because you wanted to see players get better. That's all I want. I want players to reach their
Without that.
max, and that's what the key is to pass it on to those who will listen. Not everybody wants to hear it. They impatient. They don't have time to watch. They don't have time to do this. But those who that are willing to learn and want to get better, we have information for you. And if you take it in, and then hopefully you get it, and then you can share it for the next generation to come.
Well, sound good, Andre. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Enjoyed it. And always appreciate you, brother.
All right. Take care of yourself. Stay safe.
Will do. You
All right.
too. Bye bye.